Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Ghent in Belgium is Peter Janssens. Hey, Peter, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vasco. Good afternoon. Great hearing you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. And Peter has built a long career in agile coaching and training and also worked in leadership positions, including leading a product owner team and recently becoming the CTO in a SaaS product company. Peter loves all conversations on effectiveness of team decisions. But he quickly realized doing that work that being a responsible person, a leader, is different from being a coach. As a leader, there is the additional challenge of sticking to the same foundations when dealing with something Scrum Masters, some will do, but not all, when dealing with delivery pressure, right? And the success of the business and wanting to reach the business goals that are passed on to us. So, Peter, that was a quick intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Okay, thanks, Vasco. That's a wonderful summary. And indeed, it started somewhere in 2005-06, where I remember I was with a product manager, a very classic one, staging and waterfall things. And we had a problem because we were three and one of us was leaving abruptly. And we were already overloaded with work and we needed to spread the work of our colleague over the two existing, the two remaining. So I got 3 extra projects, classic projects that I couldn't manage and I didn't have time. And I went to these people and I said, look, we have a problem, but a solution too. I have no time for you. So I will spend, let's say 1-2 hours per 2 weeks with you. I will come, show me your results. Please don't expect me to understand how you got there because that's out of my understanding and my time frame to understand it. But if you are blocked, then you can explain me what blocks you. That's okay. But for the rest, mainly focus on results and not on our results. And tell me also what you will achieve in the next 2 weeks. When I come back, what will I see? That was the only thing I did. And it was just by missing time. And I trust you. I knew in the company that was, by the way, that was in TeleAtlas, later TomTom. And I told these people, like, I know you are gurus, you are experts in your domain. So I trust you're good. That's not a worry. So we did that. And the year after, we had an evaluation. And what revealed that the evaluation, by the way, was pretty good. It was outcome-based evaluation, not really how much time did you do. And it was really on the results. And it revealed that those 3 projects scored much higher than the ones that I put lots of energy and time in it. I had a crisis personally because I had something like, okay, the more that I am involved in the project, the worse the projects go. I'm a bad guy. And that makes you think and learn. And I had a serious crisis. And luckily, I met at that time Lieven Byens. Some people may know him. He's currently the senior VP at Showpad. And we met each other, and he said, "Peter, that's okay. You're on the good track. You're learning. It's great. Let's go to a conference together." I said, "Oh, that's okay. I'm nothing to lose." And I said, "What's the agenda?" Oh, I said, "There is no agenda. We will make the agenda when we arrive." Okay. Still remember Utrecht, 2 days in Amsterdam. That's where we met great people like Jürgen Appelo at the beginning of the day, the early days of agility in our countries. And that's where I learned that you don't need to plan things to make them successful. That I learned about adaptivity and the value of really fitting towards what you really need at that moment is such of a great value. I also learned that it doesn't work all the time, but that's also okay. But that proportion is very small. And that's how it started. We introduced Scrum in the terrible, horrible way in that times with one of the biggest gurus of Scrum that I will not give his name, not to make him
better not.
give him a bad Yeah, but it was something like we had a 2 days training just the last day of the first day of January, and that current CTO came in the room at the end of the 2 days and said, "Next week we'll do this," and then you go for it, but you have no customers to talk to, and the engineers are closed for you. So there I was as a product owner at that time, a newly appointed product owner. That's horrible, and that's where I said we should do better. And I tried to become a product owner's coach at the beginning, and later a Scrum coach. And I studied some things about software development so that I was more respectful towards the people that I worked with. And I took up some Scrum Master roles. I talked to people around me that said, "Peter, hey, I'm the quality manager. You're a funny guy. You say that we shouldn't decide anything, but we remain responsible. How do we do that?" And this was the most heard question in my coaching career around the teams. People, leaders that said, "How do we solve that? We shouldn't decide anymore, but we remain responsible. How do we solve that?" And it's a different track in every question.
And
So,
it's a question that you've had to deal with also recently because of the leadership positions you have
yes,
taken, right? Because one of the legacies of having been a Scrum Master is understanding that that is not the case because it's stipulated. It's the case because it's reality. It's the people doing the work that create or not the quality of the work. It's not their managers. It's the people doing the work. But managers are, of course, responsible for setting it up, how the
yes.
teams are put together, what kind of processes we are using, how do we interact with other teams, like all of that stuff is on the manager's action list.
Yeah.
But the team itself produces the results. So we're going to explore a lot of that today, Peter, and also in the next few days this week. But I'm guessing that today we're going to explore even perhaps some quality problems, because today is Fail Monday here on the podcast. We want to hear a story of failure, a story of a moment where you as a Scrum Master, you did your best, but at that time, as it so often happens, the best just wasn't good enough. So tell us that story, Peter.
Yeah. I remember being at a team where I truly learned a lot in how pure agility could take place. Just to give you an idea, we were with 27 teams and we had no portfolio management. We were responsible to align amongst the other teams and just do the job that you need to do, and in aligning is included in it, and make sure that it happens. That was the philosophy of the company, and it works. So that was the good side. The difficult side was this was a huge step for me because I did some Scrum Master jobs before, and then you have to work in a more true agile context, and that's hard. You're faced with realities that go further than what
So can
you
you
need to
can you
trust
tell
the
us a little
process
bit
more.
more about those
Yes.
contrasts? Like
I had to
what do
give
those?
this. Yeah, I had to give this context because then what happened was we had a front-end engineer that really was terrible to coach. When you talk to him, he disturbed you. He stopped at when you after 2 words. He already knew the better truth. When on the daily work, one day he arrived at 9, the other day at 11 o'clock in the morning. Tried to have some Scrum meetings at 10. In this case, sometimes he worked until 3 o'clock at night. Other days he stopped at 5. But in the past, he has built a huge reputation of problem solver. He was the master. When it went wrong, he knew the answer. And to be honest, in his technical approach, he was very strong in a very puristic, very sustainable, I think, broad view of a good vision of front-end technology. So you have to respect him for some values, but he was a terrible guy as a team member. And the worst thing I did was focusing on the terrible things and focusing on what went wrong, and him being late and being rude in his communication and being that's a problem. But for some reason, you don't solve such problems by focusing on what goes wrong. And
So can you tell us what happened? Like as you started to focus on, for example, him being late and maybe you had a conversation about it, how did this engineer react and what happened after that?
the short version is you increase resistance, and what you need is collaboration to become better together. And that's something I learned there is when you want to solve things, only start solving things when you have at least a feeling of, oh, when we go into that direction together, it will be better, and make sure that you're aligned on that direction. Then you can have a vision on that's where we want to go to, and you have positive energy in that direction. You then can align on what to do to get there. And it doesn't matter that there is a different opinion. You can check off with your bigger purpose. And if you then have also some commitment, yes, we will do that, and I will do my role, and you will take your role, and then we will make it a success. You have direction, you have alignment, you're committed. You will get there. Trust the process.
So we want to do that, right? So we want to stop focusing on the problems and start focusing on something we want to solve together. But of course, that's easier said than done. So I imagine you talking to this person, maybe even being frustrated with that increasing resistance as you were talking to him about being late or not respecting his colleagues in the way he was communicating. How did you then switch? Like, did somebody tell you, hey, try this, or did you just find a different way? How did you switch your approach with that colleague?
I'll be honest, I couldn't. I didn't manage to solve it. I gave up and I gave it to a colleague to resolve it, and I observed what worked with him. And later on, there was those things that I started understanding, and I tried with other people when there was a disagreement or something non-functional. I learned those things later, and what I learned is how to get to that first step of purpose alignment. Like if it's not on the tool that you want to use, it's maybe on the vision of the technology, and if it's not on the technology, it's on the purpose why you use that technology. And maybe you have to go one step further. It's why we want to serve the company and where the company wants to go to, and maybe you have one higher step on what connects us just as human beings, and you have to maybe start over there. Don't do it immediately, because some people are very allergic to fluffy talk on what connects us. That's not really what everybody likes and will jump into. And you have the disadvantage that it's harder to go down on the ladder than to go up. Going up is something that people experience like, yeah, he's trying to find my way. Going down, it's more like he tries to push his ideas. That's you do the same thing.
And by going up and down in the ladder, you mean going up as in higher purpose versus going down, which is taking a higher purpose and then finding the smaller details.
Correct. Yes. The highest level for me is what connects us as a human being, even without being colleagues. Do we have things in common that we share in life? That's sometimes the highest level, and at some moments it's the good topic to discuss and to link up with somebody. Sometimes it's too high. Very often it's not the first thing you discuss as new colleagues, and sometimes it's just about the work and why we do the work.
So, from this story, I think one of the things that really strikes me, and we've talked about this in the podcast many times, but in other contexts, and I think that the way you're presenting it is a new and fresh perspective on that same process, which is find the reason why we are having this conversation, right? Like, and the reason is not what I want you to do or what you want me to do. The reason is, why are we even discussing this at all, right? Why is this even a topic?
Yes.
Right. And you called it purpose, but it really is the trigger, what brings us together, right? Like we are in this because we both passionately believe in good quality software. Okay, great. Let's start from there, right? And it does not need to be this we want to deliver this feature. It could be something higher level, right? It doesn't need to be like down to earth kind of purpose. It can be higher purpose, like you said. Yeah. Even just feeling that we have something in common by being humans helps the conversation.
Yes, and just to give you something that if you want to know me as a person, I like to make the link with very practical things. We all know the simple, stupid story format. It starts with, for who do we want to achieve which outcome? That's the alignment, that's the purpose. And then it says, well, in order for this group of people or these people, for that to achieve as an outcome, we want to make this solution. That's a story. And a story is more than just a technical format. It's something that really makes sense in life out of agile and just simple backlogs. It's in your daily way of working with people that it has the same thing. What is not included in a story format is the commitment element. How will we be sure that people will stick and execute what we want to achieve there? But that's then, of course, another Scrum ceremony and a Scrum format that takes care of that. But
Yeah.
This is how I live. I mean, Scrum has made me as a person because I try to implement those things not only in backlog management.
Absolutely. And the tip of using the user story, going back to those questions, for whom and why are we doing this? I think it's a great tip on how to make agreement and purpose definition pragmatic. So thank you for sharing that, Peter.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.